Hello and welcome to our animal encounters, and today we'll be doing Tyto, who's our lovely British barn owl. Currently he's just perched up in a tree, but as you can see he'll quite happily come down in a bit. So Ben is going to be flying Tyto today. So Ben has spent quite a lot of time training Tyto and getting him to do obviously his natural quartering behaviours. Tyto's been doing very well. In fact, right from the start, yeah, he was quartering very beautifully, and you can see that right now, obviously taking his time, heading round, and hopefully eventually landing on Ben's glove. Obviously this time he's chosen to go on the perch. So I'm just going to take a little step back, take a seat on the chair, just so I'm not necessarily badgering him too much or being too much of interference. But as you can see, Tyto here is a very beautiful young barn owl. I believe he's about 5 or 6 years old now, which is near the top to his sort of lifespan out in the wild. In the wild, they can get to around about 7 years. However, a lot of them aren't very successful below the 2-year gap, and that is unfortunately due to deforestation. Obviously with us building lots and lots of houses, human population is growing and growing, and unfortunately we're destroying the woodland areas to which these guys nest on. However, their population is fairly steady. It's not like they're endangered or anything like that. So barn owls, they're very well distributed. In fact, you'll find a barn owl in every continent except for Antarctica. Now, considering you find an owl in every continent except for Antarctica, that's pretty good going. So these guys are split up into many different species and then a few subspecies within those sets. They used to say that you had the barn owl and then about 36 different subspecies of barn owl. However, due to DNA testing and reclassification, they've kind of now come to a conclusion that actually each of the barn owls spread across the world are their own species in their own right. So therefore you have the African barn owl, you've got the American barn owl, you have the Mexican barn owl, European barn owl, Australian barn owl. I could go on, but there's about 12 different species of barn owl now, and then obviously a few subspecies within those. Now, it's an absolutely beautiful day here in Knockhatch Adventure Park over in Helsham. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, maybe sunbathing in your hammocks or out in the garden or something like that. But it's been quite a nice day for us. The animals have been bathing, finding some coolness from their waters. So our owls, we give them water bowls as well as the other animals, not necessarily to drink from, although they will sometimes rarely drink from a water bowl, but that's only if they're really thirsty. And yeah, I haven't seen that happen in a very long time. So you see Tyto's gone off, but he hasn't gone off for good. He is literally just quartering around. He's going around the entire house and then around the tree. Like I said before, Tyto here is very good at quartering, and it comes very naturally to him. Like I say, it's a natural instinct that comes from barn owls in particular. Barn owls are very active flyers, and actually they're probably the most active flyers of all your owl species. Here he comes, and you can see he's using that little bit of a breeze in the air just to obviously glide properly through, and then flying very quietly so as well. And now he's sort of just perched up on our owl display sign. Quite a few of our owls actually perch up on those signs. So on a regular day at Knockhatch Adventure Park, when we do obviously eventually open, we would usually have our indoor owl display. That's a 1:30 indoor owl display, and then we usually have our 3 o'clock outdoor display. Obviously, due to COVID-19, some of these displays might be rearranged obviously it might be a bit difficult having an indoor owl display and trying to social distance. So what we have also been doing, as Ben has shown in previous videos, we've actually been training our indoor birds to also fly outside. And actually this time where we have no one around is probably the perfect time to train them to fly outside, because there's no necessary interferences. An owl like Rusty, who has practically flown indoors his entire life because of obviously his vision impairment, we didn't think we'd have him flying outside. However, we've seen that he does fly absolutely beautifully outside, and he's gained much more confidence as we've gone along. He was a little bit precarious at first, however I flew him yesterday and yeah, he was absolutely wonderful. So we can't see Tyto at the moment, but it's a good thing we've got a tracking device on him, so if we do somehow lose an owl, we do have our backup plan, because although we trust our owls, we can't trust them completely by just letting them fly off without knowing where they are. So if it comes to a situation where we have no idea where the owl is and they're simply not returning, then what we do is we get hold of another staff member. There's 2 of us out today, so there'll be no need for that. Then we get the telemetry device out and we can obviously track the owl down. But my suspicions are Tyto isn't far away, and I'm expecting him to come back out sometime soon. At least it's not a really windy day. Like I say, they can use the wind to their advantage. However, if it's absolutely gusting it with wind, it can be made a little bit difficult for the owls. Hence why we would have to try and fly them in certain directions. So what we do is we try and fly them towards the wind, as opposed to so against the wind, as opposed to with it, because actually if you have an owl flying in the same direction as the wind, they can definitely overshoot their perch or sort of designated landing spot, whether that be a glove or the post that we've set out for them. Ah, here he is. Wonder if Ben knows. Well, here's Tyto. Just absolutely having a blast. How often have you had to track one of your owls? Well, apart from the last month when we were doing a bunch of owl tracking practices on our live streams, myself and James, it's been quite a long time actually. I think we probably tend to get it out maybe once every other month, once every 2 months, but never end up having to use it really. We usually know pretty much every single time. I'd say 9 out of 10 times we know exactly where our owl is if they fly off, and actually we know they're just going to come straight back. I think the last time we've had to properly search for an owl with the telemetry was maybe about 8 months ago, and that was just with Mumble. She got a little bit spooked, then a little bit frustrated, and then went off to some trees somewhere, so we had to use that to try and find her, and then we found her very much soon after. So thankfully we rarely have to use that. Does Tyto have an issue with seagulls? So far we haven't had any issues with seagulls with Tyto before. I remember about 4 or 5 months ago, Gandalf, the other barn owl, had a little bit of an issue with seagulls. In fact, a seagull pretty much chased him around the arena, but thankfully barn owls are much more agile. He very much escaped that seagull, but it did get a little bit of worrying for a little bit. So one thing I'd just like to put a little bit of a disclaimer for Ben and Tyto. Tyto is about 8 grams overweight today. It doesn't seem like much, but actually for a bird that size, it can be enough to make him a little bit lethargic or yeah, just a little bit heavy flying. Is Willow still flying? So Willow is on molting weight at the moment, so she's just getting rid of some old tattered feathers. We really want to get her back down to flying again. However, she's still got fairly ruffled tail feathers, so we're literally just waiting for her to get rid of those. So waiting for her to molt, and then yeah, hopefully soon we can fly Willow. So that was the end of Tyto's flights. So obviously we'll just follow them, and we'll just show sort of the process of putting them away. Ben has now taken the telemetry device off, or tracking device off, because he has him tied down to the glove. And when I say tied down to the glove, I basically mean he's got the leash through the leather jesses of the bird, basically so he can't fly off. And then obviously Tyto's gone to his lovely little corner to finish off the rest of his food. Because actually we like to say a big well done to our owls at the end of their flights. During the show or during our flying time, we give them tiny little pieces of food just to reward them a little bit by a little bit, saying you've done a good job. And then obviously it's the big final piece, kind of like a big meal, to say a big well done, and then they'll happily sit in their enclosure, feed on that, and then go to sleep. So while we're here, I might as well say hello to Barney, because Barney's a massive attention seeker, and he has been missing all you customers out there. We've been chatting with him as much as we can, including the managers. They've been coming around, chatting with Barney, giving him some food, just giving some social time to Barney. And actually, I thought we might as well go over to him, say a little hello. Hey Barney. Because everyone loves Barney. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, guys. You've been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for all the interest and the support for our live streaming videos. We really appreciate you guys coming on, giving us a watch. And also you can look back at any of our videos if you want to sort of relive those moments. But other than that, thank you for joining us. Hope you had a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow for more live streams. Bye.